Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 1 has come to a close, and simply put, I was really disappointed. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is a spoiler discussion, so feel free to spoil away down below in the comment section. No spoiler warnings required. One quick announcement before we get started. Next weekend, I will be at Fan Expo Denver. I'll be leading a panel on how to grow a nerdy YouTube channel at 2 o'clock on the creator stage, and then at 2:45, I'll do a meet and greet right afterwards in the area surrounding the creator stage. If you're in the Denver area, I'd love to meet you, and you can do so at Fan Expo Denver next weekend on July 2nd. And let's get started with my background when it comes to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. In general, I've wanted Disney Star Wars to move away from this exact time period and stop doing adaptations of established characters. And what I mean by that is that they've just done so much stuff in that window of time between Attack of the Clones and A New Hope. So many movies and TV shows are just set in that window of time. It is well explored, and they keep going back to previously established characters rather than going to new planets, discovering new characters in this vast universe. They keep looking at this same small batch of things. The one exception to that, where I think there's room to explore, was Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because you have a great actor playing a great character, and he's just sitting there for 20 years. Or hopefully doing other things besides just sitting there. But we have this 20-year window of time where you could explore how he processed everything that happened at the end of Revenge of the Sith, everything that takes place with the Empire, and what was he up to during all that time. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there, especially in light of the way they have expanded the mythology with all these TV shows I've talked about, with Rebels, with the Inquisitors, all that fun stuff. How does Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of tie into some of that? And so when they announced this show, or it was originally going to be a movie and then it became a show, that was the one exception where I was excited that we were going back to this time period and exploring an established character. And the initial trailers that it put out looked pretty good. It looked like it was going to be what I was hoping that a Kenobi show would be. And then we got the episodes, and it didn't fully work for me. So let's get started with my thoughts on the show as a whole. And in general, the big word that comes to mind is disappointing, underwhelming, wasted opportunity. Those are the types of words that come to mind, because I didn't hate the show. I had enough fun watching it. All the episodes for me were watchable because I like to go into this world. And when you're following Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by a great actor in the world of Star Wars, that's enjoyable for me. Then when you throw Darth Vader into the mix, it kind of ups the ante, and it's more stuff that I love to see. But really, when it comes to everything about this show that I actually liked, that's kind of how you can summarize it. I like to see Ewan McGregor playing Kenobi, and I got more of that. I like to see Darth Vader, and I got more of it. I got to see more lightsaber duels. But that's kind of as far deep as my enjoyment of the show went. And there were ideas in this show that were kind of interesting. Let's do live action Inquisitors and kind of look at the hunting of the Jedi. That's an interesting idea. Let's do a character study about Kenobi and how he's processing everything that's taken place. The world that he knew has crumbled. From his perspective, he failed Anakin, and in large part because of all of this world that he knew crumbled and has fallen into this fascist totalitarian state. So how does he process? That's an interesting idea. What about a youngling that was supposed to be killed by Anakin but survived and is just driven by rage now? That's an interesting idea. But I feel like they're all interesting ideas, better than great ideas executed with excellence. That's how I felt about this show. I like being in this world. I like seeing these characters, like lightsaber duels. I like Vader. And I hear the idea on paper and I go, that's a good idea. And then I look at the actual episodes themselves, and the big thing that comes to mind to like describe this show, where it went wrong, is that it's unfocused and poorly executed. The writing just wasn't there. A lot of the direction just wasn't there. And you had 3 competing ideas for a show all taking place. And so none of them delivered nearly as well as they should have. What I mean by that is kind of what I just described. The idea of a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi processing everything that's taken place is a great idea for a show. The idea of the Inquisitors hunting down Jedis is a great idea for a show. The idea of a youngling out for revenge against Darth Vader, driven by rage, is a great idea for a show. But when you try and do all 3 of those in one 6-episode season, you don't get to properly explore any of them. And when you promise that your show's going to be about Kenobi, and you go in expecting Kenobi, and then it's really kind of about this other stuff too, all of it feels underdeveloped, underexplored, and we're just spreading our time too thin, especially when on a plot level, it got very thin. And what I mean by that, going back to the poor execution, the writing just not being there, it's only 6 episodes. And even within just 6 episodes, they were repeating plots. Both episodes 1 and 3 have Princess Leia being kidnapped. Both episodes 2 and 4 have Princess Leia being rescued. 2/3 of this show is Princess Leia being kidnapped and rescued. And in episodes, I believe it's 3 as well as, or I guess episodes 2 as well as 5, you have a character who gets run through and is left for dead. And then these characters that are run through by a lightsaber and left for dead come back again and aren't dead. They repeat that same beat of run through by a saber and not dying. That's just like lazy writing, and there's no excuse when you only have 6 episodes and you're repeating kidnappings, repeating rescues, and repeating someone is stabbed, left for dead, and then they come back later. There's just no excuse for repeating things like that. And then even with just 6 episodes, we have a whole filler episode about Obi-Wan Kenobi once again breaking into a Imperial base, sneaking around with all these little images from A New Hope. 6 episodes, and we're just this filler one of just it's total fluff of walking around, rescuing her once again. Like I said before, other problem here, the direction, the way that it visualized some of this stuff, I couldn't believe some of the things that were in this show. The chase in episode 1 where Princess Leia is running from a group of adults and they're like having to clearly half jog so that she can stay ahead of them. And then she ducks under a tree and the person goes, what am I supposed to do? I don't understand how they didn't see that and go, this is no good. We just got to edit around this. Like we'll just cut this whole thing out because this isn't good enough. Or we'll just reshoot it. You can find trees anywhere. Just go out into the trees and do something better than what's there. I mean, just shockingly bad. I mean, you kind of, the same thing starts to happen again in episode 3 where there's like a barrier on the road. And they're like, how could we possibly get around this barrier? And it's just like this little road with just emptiness this way, empty this way. How would we get around this? Then at the end of the episode where Darth Vader is shown just in full rage mode, tearing Kenobi to pieces and does this awesome little bit where he drags him through fire. That was awesome. And then the whole thing is stopped because someone shoots something, some fire lands there, and all of a sudden Kenobi can just escape. All of a sudden Darth Vader stops using his powers. How would we get around this fire right here? How could we track the person on the other side of this fire? I guess they're going to escape. I mean, that's just such lazy writing, such lazy direction to have this moment where Darth Vader, it's like he's finally got Kenobi right there in front of him and he's torturing him. Oh, there's a fire between them. I guess they're going to escape. How did that make it into Star Wars? How did that make it into a show with a budget this large? And then you move into the next episode, and there's a sequence where a woman escapes from stormtroopers by open hand slapping a stormtrooper across the face, and he falls over. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi escapes out of a hangar by putting Princess Leia in his trench coat. Like, this is the stuff that you do in a silly children's cartoon. And when you see it in live action and there's like someone like with a goofy looking trench coat that's puffed out with extra feet. What? Like, what? How is this in Star Wars? And in an episode where our Imperial officer walks up and they're like questioning, like, why are you here? Even she has the credentials, she has all a rank, but they're like very suspicious of her being there. And then moments later, you have a guy with a trench coat sticking out and no one bats an eye. How did that make it into Star Wars? Like, how is that something that takes place? And then at the end of that episode, Reva, is it like they escape and Vader is mad at Reva that this happened? And I'm thinking, wait, at the end of the last episode, you let Kenobi escape. Like, you were like, well, how could I get around a fire? What could I possibly do in this moment? But also, Vader suddenly becomes very gracious, merciful, doesn't kill Reva for her failure here. And with the later revelations that he knew that she was taking advantage of him or something like that, like these interactions don't make a lot of sense in light of where things end up going with everything. Just very odd descriptions of why everything is taking place. We get to the end of episode 5 and Darth Vader, like Reva finally reveals her plan to try and kill Darth Vader. And we discover what's really been going on with her, that she's a youngling that is out for revenge against Vader because he killed younglings and tried to kill her. So she spent the last several years killing Jedi and children and Force sensitive people. Like, it just doesn't add up. Like, well, she's driven by the dark side. She's driven by rage. And so it corrupts her mind. And therefore, like, okay, like you can, like, I see what you're saying about like this parallels with Anakin, and he was driven by fear and rage and it led him to become this monster. And then she's given a choice and Anakin, like, I know on paper what you're trying to do here with Reva, but when you have that shoehorned into the Kenobi show, like, I just don't, it doesn't enhance like Obi-Wan Kenobi's journey by having her in here. So it just feels like you have this story that they're trying to do a twist reveal for her at the end of it, so she can make a final choice and like have like big reveals and stuff like that. But it's underexplored. There's like an idea of the Reva character I think could have worked if that was just her own show. Or that was all it was, the Inquisitor show, and you realize actually, oh, one of them is on this revenge mission or something like that. Okay, but you have to like do a lot more bridge building and development to get me to buy into the idea that she's going to kill children to revenge Vader killing children, because it's so obviously hypocritical and nonsensical. And so you have to like do the work to make me buy into a character and care about a character who's acting out of nonsense. But they didn't do that because they do it as a twist reveal where they just go, I'm out to get revenge against him. That's what this is all about. And we're just supposed to like buy that. Like, oh yeah, dark side makes you crazy, so it's okay that she's non-logical. I know for some of you that worked. For me, I was like, I just don't care about this because you're acting in nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. Like that you're killing children to avenge the killing of children. You're killing Jedi to avenge the killing of Jedi. It's nonsense. So I don't care because you just asking me to make too big of a leap to go from one point to the other point. There's just too many of these gaps in logic. There's too many of these just moments where they're forcing things together that don't go together. There's too many things where they're just stretching out plots. Like, do I enjoy watching Ewan McGregor in this world? Yeah, I do. Do I enjoy watching lightsaber battles? Yeah, I do. Are there some moments in it that are just awesome? Where you have like Vader with the smashed open mask and the voices going between Hayden and then the James Earl Jones. And he's like, you didn't kill Anakin, I did. And you know, the Twitter's been debating it. Was that like Anakin cutting through trying to make Obi-Wan feel better with all that Anakin has left in him, trying to like make Obi-Wan feel a little better? Or is that Vader's pure arrogance that he won't even let Obi-Wan have that? He just has to win. Like, they're debating that. Either one of those are kind of interesting. They're both kind of compelling explorations of the Vader-Anakin dynamic, whatever it could possibly mean. Great little moment. But to make all this stuff happen, to get these moments, it's just such lazy writing, such lazy execution. And the other one in here of just to make this fit in the canon, you got to stretch things too much. And this has been a problem with Star Wars ever since the prequels. George Lucas played loose with the canon. I mean, even the Return of the Jedi did some of it too. And, you know, when you have a brother and sister kissing in Empire and then reveal their brother and sister in the next one, like, there's always been some of this canon issue in there. The prequels really started to like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I think that's one of the issues with the prequels, is that there was a little bit too much of like, and then this actually happened and this really happened. And you're like, that doesn't feel like that would be the lead into the original trilogy. So that's like the prequels did that, and it wasn't a good thing. Like, I don't like that Jango Fett is the clone and Boba Fett is actually one of or the source for the clones, and that Boba Fett is another one of the clones that's the son of Jango in the way. Like, I don't like that because it adds like a level of connectivity that only makes the canon convoluted and messy. It doesn't make things cleaner. It doesn't feel like the logical thing that, oh yeah, that bounty hunter in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I bet he is tied to the precursor to the stormtroopers. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't, you don't get any of that in the original trilogy. So it's just like continuity tying together in a way that doesn't make sense. And that's what this stuff is of like, actually, Princess Leia had a whole adventure with Obi-Wan when she was 10 years old or 9 years old, whatever it was. Like, they had a whole adventure together. And so when she sent that message to Obi-Wan, she's just playing coy when she says, you worked with my father, because we got to make sure that nobody knows. Like, it rings really hollow. It doesn't feel like it connects to the fact that this was the backstory. When you watch A New Hope, you don't think that there was actually this in the middle between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. They had a rematch in there where Obi-Wan Kenobi won. It doesn't like, there's no indication that that happened. So it feels like we're forcing things in there that don't fit the canon particularly well. All for the sake of having cool moments. Are they cool moments? Absolutely they are. Are they fun? Yeah. But at what cost? Does it actually make A New Hope better? Or does it just kind of give us cheap, cool moments right now? Felt like breaking the canon to give me cheap moments. Do I love to see it? Kinda. Do I love to have that little rematch? Kinda, yeah. That little dialogue, but kinda, I like that. At the same time, does it make the whole better? I don't think it does. I don't think it does. So, it was so frustrating. Because I think there was something here that really could have worked. That it wouldn't have been as flashy, it wouldn't have had as much fan service, but you could have done a great exploration of a character. But instead, we crammed together 3 different ideas about Obi-Wan Kenobi and his relationship with Anakin Vader, this Inquisitors hunting down Jedi, and then Youngling out for revenge. We crammed them all together, so all of them felt underdeveloped. We went for kind of the most, like, basic of Star Wars ideas for a show of like, Obi-Wan Kenobi's on a rescue mission to rescue a princess, Princess Leia, who's been kidnapped. The plot of A New Hope. Like, and we rescue her 2 different times. Like, not only are we redoing A New Hope once, we're doing it 2 different times and having, once again, a duel between Obi-Wan and Vader, just like A New Hope. That's what was so disappointing. There just wasn't much that was new. The stuff that could have been fresh and interesting of just exploring the character and watching a broken hero come back was just so underdeveloped. The idea, I think, is great. The idea on paper is a better version of what they were trying to do in The Last Jedi. I didn't buy into Last Jedi in what they do with Luke at all, because the trauma wasn't enough. And the gap between where we last saw him and where he was in Last Jedi, it didn't make any sense to me. Obi-Wan, it made sense. He failed Anakin. He had to kill Anakin from his perspective. And he watched his world burn around him and be taken over. And he's been sitting there hopeless for 10 years. That's a great setup to do the broken hero plot line and watch him go on this journey where he realizes there is hope out there. So you find him at the place where he's at in A New Hope, where he's looking for a new hope. I just don't think this show did a good job of that because it was so distracted telling the story about Reva and too much about Inquisitors and just fluff, stuff that didn't need to be there. And I think you cut some of that stuff out. Or if you wanted to tell all this stuff, don't do it in 6 episodes. Make it a longer season, which I think is in general a problem with these Disney Plus shows, is that they're doing 6 episodes. And so they feel like a movie, which this was originally a movie, with filler. And then they're rushed at some point in time. That's a bunch of the Marvel shows. They feel rushed at the end. This one feels like you have fluff filler in the middle. It didn't feel rushed at the end, but it felt like there was fluff filler in the middle. And that's, the 6 episode model, I don't think is working very well for them. So I was disappointed. It really let me down. The idea's pretty good, but it led to an unfocused story because they crammed them all together. And it broke the canon. And I think the writing and direction really had some big, gigantic problems where they just made characters stupid. There was things that just fell out of place. And some things that, like, person in a trench coat, open hand slap knocking someone over, repeating plot beats. There's too much of it. So, unfortunately, as much as I wanted to love this one, it really let me down. Let me know what you thought down below. I know a lot of people did enjoy it, but a lot of us, it did not live up to the potential there. And that is so disappointing. Love to hear your thoughts on it. If you're in the Denver area, I would love to meet you next weekend at Fan Expo Denver. And keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.